This video is brought to you by Simply Safe.
Hey my friends, this is my friend, built by Stevie. She came to me with a little problem today. Tell me about it.
I don't know how to use my planes.
Okay, well we can definitely help you with that.
I don't know how to use them.
They definitely could use some love.
A little love.
But we're going to do that. We're going to talk about sharpening and tuning and setting up your plane so that it's ready to use. You're going to leave here totally able to sharpen your own tools.
I mean, I'm stoked.
It's going to be great.
I'm going to learn.
I also should probably mention that, like, we're obviously standing in the middle of my barn right now. We are undergoing some construction in the office / my tiny little wood shop right now. Actually, Stevie has a really cool wood shop. She does custom built-ins and all kinds of other stuff for clients. I guess we could have gone over there, but in this one we might have a goat disruptor video. So.
I mean, one's already walked through, so...
Okay, so ask me your questions about these planes.
Okay. I don't know how to set them up. I don't really know how to sharpen them, and I need to know, like, do they actually work? Like, I got these at an estate sale, so I want to be like you. Do they work?
Who doesn't? Really?
I mean,
have you like done anything to them? Have you cleaned them up?
I have not cleaned them up. I kind of thought I sharpened this one a little bit, but that's about it.
Let's take a look at this one first. This one is actually, it looks like it's really dirty and it needs a lot of work, but one thing I'm super into is just making tools work again. Mm-hmm. This is a jack plane, so this is going to do a lot of your stock removal work. This is not going to be your finishing tool, so this doesn't have to be perfectly square or perfectly flat. But what it does have to be is perfectly sharp. As I do take it apart, we're going to notice that there's what looks like two blades here. This is the actual blade that is sharp, and this is the chip breaker. This does the actual cutting, but the chip breaker makes it so that the shavings will curl away from the cut and not clog the mouth or the opening of the plane right there. As far as sharpening goes, we want to make sure that these two mate together, and as long as there's no visible gaps there, we're probably pretty good on that guy, and we're just gonna focus solely on the blade. The most important thing that I think most people don't quite get right away as far as sharpening goes is how important it is to keep the back of the blade flat. For this to be completely flat, it then follows that this has to be completely flat. Water stones are really soft and they can dish and nick really, really easily. If you have water stones, you should be flattening them at least twice every single time you sharpen, or you're gonna have a big fat divot in the middle and you're only gonna be sharpening your blade right here and right here.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch of different jigs. This is the Lee Valley one, the Lee Nielsen one, Woodpecker's one. You said that you have the Eclipse one. That's the most affordable one, but you have to make some modifications to that one to make it work. So I personally would prefer to teach you how to do it freehand. Okay. The other thing too is to find one spot in your shop and set it up as a sharpening station. Just have all your stuff right there, because then you're gonna turn around and start using it. Anytime you're removing any kind of metal, you want to have some kind of lubrication. And I'm not gonna squirt you. For me, that is water. I have my stone at the edge of the table here. We're gonna start at our stone below, and we're gonna rock up to that place that's flat. Then, it really comes down to some pretty sweet dance moves. With this, we don't want to be stepping back and forth. We don't want to be jiggling our body all around. We've got it in our right hand here, or if you're left-handed, you just switch here. But I have my body kind of centered over this. Start there. But I don't need to be reaming down on it. I want this little pinky to keep this from falling off the stone. Okay. I'm going to use this to kind of guide it, and my fingers here, so that I have even pressure across the whole thing. And again, I'm not pushing hard. And now look at how I'm rocking like my body back and forth. This, getting used to this motion while we're sharpening here is gonna be crucial to doing the next step. Okay. Yeah, so I'm literally just shifting my weight back and forth. Anytime you're doing any kind of new skill, learning how to eliminate your variables, or at least hone in on your variables. Oh, look, another sharpening pen. Using a Sharpie gives you an indication on where your material is being removed. Okay. So if you are removing it all from this side because you're pushing too hard, or if you're moving it like only back here and not here, well then there's some adjustments that can be made. So see if you can replicate what we talked about so far.
So I'm doing the back.
Yep. during this whole process, you're going to want to be really conscious of what's happening with your elbows. So keep those elbows tucked. The more that they're out and about, they can kind of introduce some error. It's not hugely important right now because you've got, this much registered on a stone.
Now, do we need to add water to this?
Yes, every so often. You just give that a few little squirts, and really it's just like, is it lubricated or is it not? Like, is it sliding nicely or is it not?
Okay.
There you go. Now you can see, if you take one quick pass with that, then you can look at where the marker's been removed. And another little tip here.
Okay, so
yeah, good.
Point.
So you've got a high point right there. Another thing that you can do to reduce friction is to skew ever so slightly. So pull the back. Yeah, you already got it going on. Yeah, so skewing it ever so slightly does actually just only one way.
Okay, only one way.
Yep, there you go.
Just this way. Okay.
Yep, because you want to keep those, you don't want anything happening out and about.
I see.
We could spend a really, really, really long time flattening this and getting it perfectly flat, but there's actually a shortcut.
Ooh, I like a shortcut.
Here's the thing about the shortcut, though, is that it involves some preciseness of its own. So let me just head on over to my whiteboard really quick here. When you are sharpening, with metal it's kind of funny. With sanding, like, you sand the wood and then that sawdust just disappears and that's it. Mm-hmm. But with metal, when we're sharpening, we are constantly pushing material, both, like when we're sharpening from this side, we're pushing material that way. And when we're sharpening from this side, we're pushing material that way. So ultimately, as we're flattening the back, it's going to create what's called a burr.
Okay.
And a burr is actually like a little hook right there on the back that if we didn't remove that burr, it would, our blade wouldn't work. I say all that right now because we're about to take a shortcut that is going to create a burr in a hurry. Okay. And you don't want to screw this one up.
All right.
If 2020 had gone according to plan, I would be currently standing in my completed wood shop. But as I'm sure you can relate, it's been quite a year. When we moved here and I thought my shop was going to be completed by May, I set up a workspace in one little section of our barn that I could use as a temporary workshop and an office. But for obvious reasons, it doesn't work great as either. I couldn't build a whole lot of stuff unless I went to other people's shops. So in the meantime, with some very creative thinking about where to put some stuff that's currently in the barn, I can reorganize and actually set up my power tools that have been in storage this whole time and actually get some woodworking done this winter. And to that end, my friend Greg Pennington helped me put in an electrical panel. There's lots of other stuff that's gonna happen, but while he was doing that, I decided I needed to put in a monitoring system that is very long overdue, just because it is my office and my shop, and the barn is so far away. If there was a fire or a break-in, or if my animals wreaked some kind of havoc, I would really have no idea about it without a good monitoring system. Putting in a traditional security system was super daunting because it meant running a whole bunch of wires and doing infrastructural changes that I simply don't have the time or knowledge or resources to know how to do. But a whole bunch of my friends started getting Simply Safe systems that you literally just unbox and stick where they need to go, and then you've got a security system. So I started looking into it, and this is the system that I got. It starts with this base station where you unbox, plug it in, and you're pretty much ready to go.
With Simply Safe, you can get around-the-clock protection for only about 50 cents per day with no contracts.
See, this is exactly why I need a security system. Buddy, read the room. No, ma'am. Oh, no.
Simply Safe is an incredibly effective, reliable home security that will make sure your home is safe. You can order it online or over the phone, and it's professionally monitored 24/7, so if anything happens, they'll make sure the police get called. Please visit simplysafe.com/AnnofAllTrades to learn more.
A little while ago, a very smart woodworker named David Charlesworth came up with what's called the ruler trick. And you can actually use an old bandsaw blade, or you can use one of those free rulers that's really thin that the banks give you because, you know. But what this does is it effectively raises that up a tiny little bit, which then makes sure that the tip where it's most important is making contact with the stone. So the only thing about this, though, that is very, very important is that you always have to use the same ruler
every single time
in the same place on the stone. We just all of a sudden moved it up here and started doing stuff. That's going to cause the same kind of problem.
Okay.
Give this guy a few little passes
pushes
there.
All right.
And then we're going to start feeling for that burr. Yeah, good job. Now, don't look. Don't look.
Okay.
Feel if you can feel your fingers start to catch right as it gets to the tip.
Yep, just barely.
Do you feel it everywhere or just some places? Close your eyes, but don't cut your hand.
Just almost in the middle, but not on the far side.
Yep.
Okay.
So if we look at the back, we can actually see that. Because you see how the polish is over here and there's not the same polish over here? So, but yeah, so we can see that it just needs a little bit more work there right at the tip.
Okay.
And so even think about when you're doing that, where was it that that there wasn't a burr? Maybe work on pushing a little bit harder with that finger in that place.
Okay.
Then wipe and feel.
Okay, yep, there's a burr there. Yeah, all the way across.
Cool. So that, in theory, that burr is, now we've made ourselves a scraper.
All right.
So you've used scrapers all the
I use
time.
scrapers.
So now we've made ourselves a scraper. Now we just need to make it a sharp blade.
Okay.
So let's pull out the water stones. Not that this wouldn't be totally fine for that, but you know, we want to show off of like a few different methods here. So you notice that my water stones are soaking in water here. If you're not going to use your stones for months and months, go ahead and pull them out of the water, but otherwise, just like we were talking about before, keep your water stones soaked so that they're ready to use when you're ready to use them. So this is actually a perfect example of me not following my own advice. Remember how I said keep your stones really, really flat? You see already how, as fastidious as I am of a flattener, there's already wear. And that's a visual reminder, but once it gets more than a visual reminder, we've got a real problem. So what we're going to do is flatten it. These things are really slippery, shocking. So we also have this little piece of whatever that stuff is that you put in the bottom of your fork drawer. We're going to just actually now do the same thing again. We're going to refine that edge a little bit. Now you are using my water stones, so just very gentle pressure. You see this actually almost does it itself.
Okay.
Of course, now if you do it with the correct hand and you have your body position and all that stuff figured out, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Okay, so why do I go to this stone?
We just want to reestablish our baseline, basically. Okay. So we're just like, oh yeah, okay, we're at a new stone, and then assuming that we, rub off our burr and everything, it's going to be great. So this next step is where it gets really tricky if you're doing it by hand, and that's why things like, these sharpening jigs exist, because these are going to hold it at a consistent angle. And as far as like what angle is the best, there's tons of debate about that. I like to, if I do grind my blades, I grind them to 25 degrees, and then I raise them to 30 to 35 degrees with what's called a micro bevel. Okay. And again, earlier we were talking about, not wanting to have to sharpen that much material, not having to remove that much. Mm-hmm. A micro bevel is basically exactly the same. We want to just remove a little bit of material right at the tip because it's faster. Okay. Also, one other quick tip too is that if you are using some kind of, jig to hold this stuff, I have a stop block. I use the same angle for everything, so I just put it on my stop block, shove the blade in there. It's the same every single time. Okay. Which is the main argument for using something like this, is that you get those repeatable results. If you're using maple and lots of other woods that are really, really cantankerous as far as the hand plane goes, one really awesome thing that you can do is to experiment. So, like you're experiencing horrible tear out, or like the wood is just tearing away from the plane blade at 30 degrees, maybe you inch it up to 31 degrees, still bad, 32 degrees, up and up until you find that good thing, and then you can go back to that exact same thing. Okay. That's the only like real benefit of these, is that repeatability. But they are, you know, an investment, and they have their own learning curve as well. So as long as we have a relatively good bevel to start with, doing it freehand is definitely an option. So with this, we're going to be super fastidious with the marker, because actually it's a fun thing. Do you hear it catching?
Yeah.
So that's the burr, which is great. That's exactly what we want. We want it to know that the pen is catching all the way across the entire edge, because that's going to, you know, give us what we need. So with that, I just want to know exactly where this stuff is coming from.
Okay.
I'll also say that, of course, I needed to fit more tools in this cabinet, because my shop looks like this. So this is a tad tall.
Yeah, go for it.
But
Just
we
look
can
close with you.
still kind of get what we need out of this. I really like to sharpen at something that's about this height, because it allows me that, you know,
The actual movement.
yeah. But what we can do here is actually the exact same thing. It's just a little bit more cramped. So what we're going to do is the same thing here. We always start below and wait for that water displacement there.
Okay.
Here we're going to start low. Again, we're never going to go like that. We're going to start low and raise it up. And then we can see right where that water gets displaced. Do you see that?
Yep.
So with that, we're going to find where that is, lock everything. Look at how my elbows are up against my body. My wrist is here. The plane blade has you know, space to move there. And then again, basically no pressure. I've got my legs spread here. I've got the ability to just rock my body back and forth.
Oh yeah.
So with that, always start low.
Okay.
I will also say that if you just go like this is where you're going to screw up your stone, your blade, your everything. This is where you have to be locked for this to be able to work properly. So we're going to raise until that little thing, that little bubble comes, and then basically no pressure.
Okay.
And we're just going to move it across the stone. And this is where, when you start to get comfy with this, you can start with the back and forth thing, but while you're getting comfy with it, it's maybe best to just only do pull.
Okay.
Because with that, you're far less likely to mess things up.
Okay.
And so with this, of course I screwed it up on purpose, just for you. But do you see, now we've removed the marker line right there, almost at the tip.
Yep.
But not fully at
Not all
the
the
tip.
way. Okay.
So this is where we need to get to pushing that burr back and forth.
Okay.
So we're gonna burp, burp. We raise it up, and here's where this method does not shine, is that with this to work, or to make this work, you have to raise your bevel up a little bit higher every single time you sharpen, because it's like, so eventually you end up, you know, coming up, like it ends up getting a little rounded at the top, and that's when you would then return to your grinder. But we don't want to start people with the grinder in these basics, because you really have to like nail your ability to move like this.
Yeah, and I don't have a grinder anyway, so.
Oh, see, well, there you go. You just bring it over to Auntie Anne's house when it needs to.
When I need to grind.
Okay. Oh yeah. Another thing too is that, so I have determined that whole thing has that burr on it. I'm going to now come back here. Oh yeah. Also, even though we had these soaking, we do want to keep it moist. Come back here. Start low. Come up here. Watch for where that water displaces, then raise it up ever so a little bit, and then just move your body back and forth. Equal pressure on both sides, but like literally, like I might as well be like, I'm not doing anything. I'm literally just moving it back and forth. If your like little fingernails, which like mine are a little bit white, but like that's because.
Hold on for a sec. It's airplane.
Oh yeah. What?
Uh-huh.
Clay?
It's like from the stones.
Ah.
So, I have seen people online that do these fancy figure eight things, and that's so wonderful that works for them. And now that I know what I'm doing, it's okay to do that. But like, there's literally no reason to do that, especially when you're just trying to train yourself how to make a movement. So here we are here, just going like this. And if we think that we're getting there, then we start feeling for the burr on the other side. And again, always coming from this side out, never this side in. So why don't you give that a little feel and see what needs to happen with it. Okay. So now I'm going to have you take a look at this and do a couple swipes, and then look and then remarker and swipe and look, because with this stuff you can get out of hand in a hurry. But it, like, really, this is how I trained myself to have that fluid body movement, is by like checking obsessively,
like back and forth,
because like I said, I mean, it's so easy to screw these up.
Yeah, totally.
But if you're fastidious about monitoring yourself, you can make those micro adjustments that you need to make in your technique.
Okay.
And nothing gets, beyond repair.
Okay, so this is where I'm gonna push down.
Yeah.
Create a little bit of a.
Yep, and even with this, you want to just reposition it a little bit, because if your blade's a little bit longer, it wants to have some space up there.
Okay, so like that.
Yep. And then wait, and then look for that little bubble.
So
Yep.
There.
But then now raise it up a couple degrees, tuck those elbows
They're in.
all the way in, and then raise it up a little bit like that. And now, your body.
There we go. I'm ready.
Yep, go for it.
All right.
And maybe skew it like this a little bit,
Okay.
because this actually does the opposite of what it was doing before.
Oh,
It gives
okay.
you more surface area, because you're right there at the tip.
Okay.
Don't push so hard. Great work, though. Rotate this wrist up ever so. Yep, you're good.
Okay. Oh, I feel that.
Yeah, you see how
Yeah.
that's different? You're doing really great, actually. Not that that's a surprise. Okay.
Okay.
Now.
So now filling the back.
Yeah. At this point, aside from looking at what your marker's doing and how that's working, you're not going to look at anything anymore, because this is where
actually feel.
looking at things screws people up more than anything else.
Yeah. So I have a burr up until that corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this again. So finding that little guy.
Yep.
And pushing a little bit more, I guess, on that side.
Mhm.
So at an angle.
Yep, you got it. Good work. Raise it up a couple degrees. There you go. There you go. All right, now let's give it a little feel.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so now you have created the burr. You could go to the next higher stone. This is a 1,000 stone. You could go to a 4,000. You could go to a 6,000. You could go to a 16,000.
It's high.
They make those. I think they actually make a 20,000. The thing is, though, that I have found a happy medium. First of all, that I don't need to spend money on a whole bunch of intermediate stones. I can go from 1,000 to 10,000, and like, if you're going from 80 grit sandpaper to 400 grit sandpaper, that's a really big difference. But when you're talking about microscopic things like this, it's a few extra rubs, and you save $90.
Okay, cool.
So we'll just do a quick polish now on the next stone. Let me just give it a quick flatten.
So you need to do this every time.
Every single time. And actually, if I'm gonna like be sharpening a whole bunch of stuff, I'm gonna actually go and like flatten it in between things as well.
All right.
Because these stones are just like shockingly
Yeah.
soft. So hit
Exact
it again,
same.
right there.
Okay.
If I wasn't standing right here, I'd say hit it with the marker again. But yeah, you're really good right there.
Okay.
Yep. And you see actually that you're removing material there. You can see it on the stone.
Yep.
You'll get a little more surface area if you tilt a little bit like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Keep those elbows tucked into your body. Yep. There you go. All right. Now let's give it a little feel. Make sure that you've still got a burr across the entire back edge.
Yep.
So now we're going to put our ruler back on.
Okay.
And this actually should just go real quick, because what we're just doing is we're taking that burr right off. So we've polished it on that side, and as long as that burr gets completely wiped off this entire side here, now we should have a totally sharp blade.
Okay.
So Phil, is the burr there? Is it gone? What's happening?
It's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we give it a quick wipe, once again being very careful of those rivets. And the reason that we do this is we want to obviously get all the water and all the stone and all that stuff off of it. And then I have a little microfiber cloth that I hid somewhere. And we're going to give the little blade a squirt of oil. This is jojoba oil, but any non-viscous oil is totally fine. And by non-viscous, I mean a very thin oil. We don't want to be using olive oil or anything like that. We're going to use this to wipe off the whole blade. You can get that at like health food stores or like whatever. So once we've got all of everything all wiped off of it, we're good for a little test. I mean, people love the shave test. I find it quite disgusting. But, you know, I'd love to send you home with some of my DNA.
Perfect.
So you can do that. There it is.
Some
Some dandruff and some
fur,
arm
animal.
hair. Yeah, all of that.
Some milk
so,
dud.
Yeah, definitely some milk dud in there. And we know that that's like, you know, quite sharp. Because we can take some curls. You know, people cut paper, but like paper is not that strong. Paper is, and also it is kind of abrasive, so it's not the best way to do it. So we now know that this blade is sharp. So now we need to put this back together.
Okay.
Once you've got your blade sharp, there's a lot of things you need to do to make your plane work perfectly. All of that is coming up in the next video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Lucy, do you freaking mind?